In the opening, Clint Barton and his wife are making a picnic lunch for them while he teaches his daughter archery on his remote farm. Out of nowhere, Clint's little girl disappears and the remainder of Clint's family deteriorates, alongside half of all life across the universe, the consequence of Thanos snapping his fingers subsequent to procuring each of the 6 endlessness stones. Cloud and Tony Distinct are abandoned in space following their loss by Thanos on Titan, however are gotten back to Earth via Song Danvers and rejoined with Natasha Romanoff, Bruce Flagg, Steve Rogers, Rocket, Thor, and James Rhodes. The team comes up with a strategy to get the Infinity Stones back from Thanos and use them to undo his actions. However, when they find him, they discover that he had used the stones twice to destroy them, stopping him from using them again. He tells the remaining Avengers that he did this so that he wouldn't use the stones for anything else evil. Irritated, Thor executes Thanos, saying it's what he ought to have done in Wakanda. 5 years later, Scott Lang escapes from the quantum realm to discover that his daughter Cassie is now a teenager and that Hope Van Dyne, along with half of the population, has disappeared in the snap. Rogers has been leading grief counseling sessions for survivors still struggling with the effects of the snap, while Romanoff is tirelessly keeping watch over both Earth and the rest of the universe with the help of Rhodes, Danvers, Okoye, Rocket, and Nebula. Lang goes to Romanoff and Rogers, and explains that while 5 years had passed for them, only 5 hours had passed for him in the quantum realm and that time stretches much differently there. They explain their theory that the quantum realm can be used to travel back in time and steal the Infinity Stones before Thanos can collect them to Stark, who is now raising a child with Pepper Potts. After reflecting on the loss of Peter Parker, Stark decides to test theoretical models that would work with Lang's quantum tunnel and ultimately discovers one that works. At first, Stark rejects their proposal because he is concerned about putting his family and the peace he has found at risk. The remaining Avengers set out to reassemble their team with Stark aboard. Bruce Pennant has now embraced the mass as a piece of him, and has merged his own cognizance and the mass together into one. Romanoff leaves to find Barton after hearing from Rhodes about an assassin whose methods are similar to his own. Barton, devastated by the loss of his family, has been operating under the alias Ronin and brutally killing members of gangs and criminal cartels all over the world in an effort to make the world a better place. He agrees to join the team after Natasha finds him in Japan and convinces him to do so in order to try to bring his family back. Valkyrie and the last Asgard survivors have settled in the small town of New Asgard, which Banner and Rocket visit. They find Thor there, who is overcome with guilt over not killing Thanos in Wakanda. In his spare time, Thor eats junk food, gets drunk, and plays Fortnite with his friends Korg and Meek. He also has an overgrown beard and hair. Rocket and Banner are successful in persuading Thor to return to the Avengers, but Thor reluctantly agrees. The Avengers reunite with a plan after testing the quantum time machine on Barton, who confirms that it works. In 2012, during the Battle of New York, Banner, Rogers, Lang, and Stark set out to retrieve the time, mind, and space stones. Banner travels to the Sanctum Sanctorum, where the Ancient One informs him that removing the Time Stone from her timeline would obstruct Stephen Strange's efforts to stop Caecilius from breaking the laws of nature in the future. However, when Banner informs her that Strange willingly gave Thanos the Time Stone, she grants Banner access to it, implying that Strange had planned for a particular sequence of events to take place in order to defeat Thanos. In order to prevent any negative effects, Banner also promises that the stones will return to their proper timelines. Lang an obvious endeavor to take the Space Stone after the Justice Fighters seize it from Loki. By pulling a circuit in his artificial heart, Lang causes Stark's previous self to have a mild cardiac arrest, and Stark steals the briefcase containing the Tesseract while no one is looking. After Stark is hit by the Hulk by accident, their plan fails when he drops the briefcase. The Space Stone is then taken from Loki, who uses it to evade capture. Rogers steals the Mind Stone from undercover Hydra agents, but he runs into his past self, who thinks he's Loki disguised. Rogers reunites with Stark and Lang after defeating the previous Steve. They now need to find a new way to obtain the space stone without running out of the few Pym particles that enable them to traverse the quantum realm. While Rogers and Stark devise a strategy to steal the space stone from a US Army installation in the 1970s and steal additional vials of Pym particles in order to make the journey back home, Lang brings the Mind Stone back to the present. Rogers sees Peggy Carter while he is there, and Stark has a good conversation with his father Howard. Before Malekith uses the Reality Stone against the Nine Realms, Rocket and Thor travel to Asgard to retrieve it. While in Asgard, Thor is reminded that his mom, Frigga, would kick the bucket soon and gets an opportunity experience with her while Rocket takes the Ether, the disintegrated variant of the Truth Stone, from Jane Cultivate. After Frigga gives Thor advice, the two of them return to Earth, and Thor is thrilled to find that he is still deserving of his hammer Mjolnir. Rhodes and Nebula set out to Morag to rob Peter Quill of the Power Stone. Nebula fails and remains on Morag as Rhodes brings the Power Stone back to the present. Thanos and Ebony Maw go to kidnap future Nebula when they discover that two consciousnesses are operating on her systems. Nebula discovers what has transpired and attempts to warn the others, but it is too late. Thanos goes through her memories and finds the plan of the Avengers. He then sends Nebula, who was more loyal in the past, back to the present as a spy. Barton and Romanoff go to Vormir to get the Soul Stone, but they are conflicted when the stone's keeper, Red Skull, tells them that they can only get it by killing someone they care about. Barton returns to Earth with the Soul Stone after a heartbroken battle over who will make the sacrifice, with Romanoff ultimately falling. Hi everyone. Welcome to Film Block. Please remember to like and subscribe if you would like to see more film reviews like this one. Remember that every subscriber makes it possible for us to continue running this channel. Thanks in advance for your support. Now let's get to it. Stark, Rocket, and Banner set out to create a gauntlet made of the same nanotechnology as Stark's most recent Iron Man suit in order to wield the stones once everyone had returned to Earth's present. Because he can withstand both the gamma radiation and the immense pain and injury caused by using the stones, Banner agrees to wield the gauntlet and bring back everyone who vanished during Thanos' snap. Despite his success, they are almost immediately attacked by Thanos, who was brought to Earth by the false Nebula and destroyed the quantum portal. Thanos diminishes the Vindicator Central Command to rubble, separating the group and making the glove fall into Barton's insurance. While Rogers, Thor, and Stark confront Thanos, who decides he will instead use the Infinity Stones to destroy the universe and create one in his vision, her future self kills the past Nebula as she tries to steal the Infinity Stones from Barton. Rogers supports Thor's theory that he is qualified to wield Mjolnir and the three engage in one-on-one combat with Thanos, but Thanos defeats them all. T'Challa, the Avengers, and other allies revived by Banner appear before Rogers shortly after Thanos' army lands on Earth before attacking Thanos and his army. Thanos fights a number of Avengers for the Infinity Stones after a lengthy struggle in which Stark and Parker are reunited and Quill and Gamora from the past are reunited. At the point when he's limited by Wanda Maximoff's energy, Thanos orders Glaive to have his boat fire numerous energy impacts, almost wrecking the Justice Fighters' endeavors. When Captain Marvel reappears, he fights for the gauntlet and destroys Thanos' ship. Stark moves the Infinity Stones from Thanos' hand to his own with the nanotechnology from the new gauntlet, uses them to turn Thanos and his entire army into ash, declaring triumphantly, "I am Iron Man." Parker and Potts comfort Stark as he passes away from radiation from the stones. The Avengers hold a funeral for Stark after the battle, where his Mark I arc reactor is floating on the lake next to his house. For the first time in his life, Thor makes Valkyrie the Queen of Asgard and joins the Guardians of the Galaxy in an effort to discover his true calling. Barton goes back to his family, and Parker goes back to school, where he sees his best friend Ned once more. Rogers, on the other hand, is tasked with returning the stones and Thor's hammer to their original timelines by traveling back in time. However, he chooses instead to spend the rest of his life with Carter in the past. As an old man, he reappears before Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes and gives Wilson his shield and Captain America's uniform. Rogers and Carter are briefly shown in a flashback in a house that looks normal. They are finally happy and sharing the dance they never got to have in their living room.